Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, class. It is good to be back in Lakewood, one of, I think, the most iconic communities in this state, and it's one that I have always looked forward to coming to, as has my wife, and we've been welcomed warmly at every single moment. So it's great to be back. I'll come back to the folks who are with us today, but I want to thank each and every one of them for their courage and their willingness to be with us and to tell their stories, not just in some cases their own, but the stories of loved ones. So this is not a political event. I want to say that explicitly. This is a government event, and we're gathered together to try to figure out how to do the right thing and how we can, please God, land the plane, as they say, in a way that benefits and supports the folks in our society who need government the most. And that's why we're here. So I don't want anybody to think for 1 second that this is a partisan event, because it is not. This is about doing the right thing, and period, full stop. And it is born out of, and we did one of these up in Westfield a few months ago. Christine and Sarah were with me, and Jeff's predecessor, Caitlin, was with me, and I'll get to them in a moment. That was about a pending bill in Congress. And at that time, we were hoping that cooler heads would prevail, that folks would do the right thing. And it turned out this very disastrous bill, as it relates to a lot of folks, but in particular the folks at this table, actually now has passed. It passed with a one-vote margin, 215 to 214 votes in the House of Representatives. Again, this is a federal bill, and importantly, the overwhelming amount of money that supports these families and their loved ones are federal dollars. We do our best in the state, but no state, including New Jersey, has the kind of money that can be put up against this wall of federal money. So again, the first time we did this, it was pending, and we were hoping that folks would have a rational, empathetic, supportive response, and it turned out not to be the case. And now we're here in Lakewood, and as I mentioned, the bill has passed. It is still subject to the United States Senate, and if you believe what you hear in the Senate discussions, and my colleagues are much more deeply in this than I am, you could conclude either it'll be a little bit worse or a little bit better, but it won't be a magic wand, unfortunately. This won't be something that we can flip a light switch on and turn it back to a better moment. I hope over time we can, but I fear that we won't be able to anytime soon. The reason why we do these discussions is because this can become, if you're not careful, very abstract. We talk about numbers, and we need to talk about numbers. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, the Medicaid hit to New Jersey is $3.5 billion, and that number could only go up. So that's a huge number, which impacts tens, if not hundreds of thousands of lives in our state. But it's equally as important, if arguably more so, that we don't just focus on numbers, that this never becomes abstract. It's actually why during COVID we committed to memorializing victims at every one of our press conferences, because we wanted folks to understand the humanity of this. Thank God we're around a table with everybody is alive, but the humanity is no less compelling. So we're going to try to balance the cold-blooded facts and numbers with hearing stories of people's lives who are either with us or their representatives and loved ones are with us this morning. I hope that doesn't mean we have to vacate the building. By the way, what a nice room. Not only are we in Lakewood, but this is a pretty cool spot, so thank you for hosting us. I want to reiterate and thank the courage of the folks around this table who have chosen to come out and tell their story, and it means a lot for them to be here. I want to acknowledge a couple of folks who are with us who are either subject expertise, elected officials, in all cases trying to do the right thing. To my right, Commissioner Sarah Edelman will hear from her in a moment. Two to my left, Acting Commissioner of the Department of Health, Jeff Brown. So far, so good, Jeff. Thank you. And Commissioner to my left, Christine Norbert Beyer for Children and Families. I should have said that Sarah's with Human Services. Two to my right, a great ally in our legislature, Lakewood's own, Avi Schnall. Avi, great to have you with us, man. And again, together we are standing here, sitting actually, putting forth a united front on behalf of our neighbors and fellow residents who rely so heavily on Medicaid and other federal health care programs. You know probably some of the buzzwords that are going around right now. One phrase is that the bill that was passed will impose significant work requirements. Work requirements. I want you to keep those words, work requirements, in the back of your minds as you hear these stories, and ask yourself, does that have any relevance whatsoever to the stories that you'll hear? It's, again, incredibly abstract. You'll also hear words, fraud, waste, and abuse. Fraud, waste, and abuse. I would want you to ask the same question of yourselves when you hear these stories. Do you see a lot of evidence of fraud, waste, and abuse? You can imagine what the answer to that question is. And this is a harsh phrase, but I'm going to use this phrase because it's sadly accurate. Those are dog whistle words. Those are trying to divert our attention away from the painful reality of what this bill will do to human beings who live in our state. Again, I don't use that phrase lightly. Dog whistle words. Fraud, waste, and abuse, and work requirements. By the way, I haven't met one person who has anything to do with any federal health care or other program where if they could work, that they don't want to work. There's a willingness to work. Nobody said, I'm not going to work and I demand. The question is, can they work? What's the reality of the situation? And by the way, if there's fraud, waste, and abuse, sign me up. I want to get rid of that. But again, I challenge you all to listen carefully here and ask yourself, did you hear anything about fraud, waste, and abuse? Did you hear a story from anybody here where they could be working and they're not? Or they could be working more than they're working and they're not? But this bill is not actually about any of that. It's about gutting federal programs in order to pay for tax cuts. That's what this is. So let's just call it. I'd have a lot more respect for these folks who voted for it if they were honest about why they voted for it, because that's what this is. We think, again, $3.5 billion of eliminated Medicaid funding. That's nearly a quarter of about $14 billion that we get as a state. And that will, first and foremost, taken out on our vulnerable neighbors, but it's broader than that. It'll be hospitals, other health care providers. It's not just Medicaid. It's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP, or otherwise known when I was growing up as food stamps. It is the slashing the subsidies that have allowed folks to apply for, engage, and become part of the Affordable Care Act. We're not really talking about it today. It's a big whack to Planned Parenthood. So it's a across-the-board betrayal of the people of New Jersey. I mentioned it passed by one vote, 215 to 214. I also mentioned this is not a nonpartisan event. But it must be said that there were 3 votes for this bill in New Jersey. Chris Smith was one of them. By the way, Chris is a guy we do a fair amount of work with, even though we don't see the world the same way always. This is his district. I invited Chris personally to be here today. I'm not sure what the circumstances were, but he was unable to come. But Chris Smith, Tom Kane, Jeff Van Drew all voted for this bill. I want everyone to know that. There were 9 no votes. It happened to break along Republican, Democratic lines, but I'm reporting the facts as opposed to making a partisan observation. If only one of those yes votes, all we needed was one in New Jersey to vote against it, they could have changed the course of human history and lent an explicit hand to the families that you will hear about and individuals you'll hear about today. So it is an incredibly sad decision that they chose to vote for this. For the life of me, I don't understand how they could, given the impact on the lives that this bill will have, including folks at this table. And it must be said that no state, including New Jersey, has a fraction of the money that the federal government has. So the notion that we could somehow make this up is unfortunately a myth. And that's not just New Jersey, that's every American state. Maybe there's some stuff modestly at the margins, but in the business I used to be in, this would be like trying to catch a falling knife. It would just be one step after another, and pretty soon you'd have states going belly up. So just before I turn, I'm going to open up, Sarah, with you, if that's okay. Let's just, all of us, understand the scope of what we're talking about here today. Nearly 2 million of our neighbors rely on federal health care programs, Medicaid being the gorilla program, but far and away not the only one. So these are seniors, their children, they're individuals with disabilities, their entire families whose access to health care is now literally in jeopardy. These are patients who are fighting cancer, who they may now be required to work just to keep their coverage as opposed to being focused on their recovery. Their children who could lose access to life-saving medications and treatments. Seniors who may find themselves suddenly deprived of the home and community-based services they and their caregivers rely on. And this is the part of the story that I think is undertold, if I may say. These cuts will not only, we too often are in a them versus us conversation. So it's pretty darn clear, and you're going to hear the stories, that these cuts will drill a hole right through these families and these individuals. But it's not just about them, if you will. This will destabilize our states, frankly our country's entire healthcare system. So it will not stop just at hurting the families who are, say, enrolled in Medicaid. It will hurt the much broader universe of folks who rely on New Jersey's community health centers, hospitals, nursing homes, on and on and on. They will likely cause layoffs, forced closures of healthcare facilities that will hurt our healthcare workforce for sure. And by the way, they've always been one of the great sources of pride in our state and in our country at the front line. We never saw it more tangibly than during the COVID overwhelming experience. And sadly, the folks who voted for this bill, they knew exactly the consequences. This is not going to be like a year or two from now, somebody could say, wait a minute, I didn't realize that was going to happen. Everything I've just said is clear as a bell, that it will all happen. So nobody who voted yes, including the 3 folks in our House delegation, can ever say, you know what, I just didn't realize this was where it was headed, because they know exactly where this is headed, which makes this vote so cruel, so sad, so disappointing. Enough of the soapbox. Deep thanks again, most importantly, to the folks who have come out today, and family members and caregivers who are showing so much courage every day, but including this day. Let me ask Sarah, to my right, again, the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services, very briefly, what have I missed in terms of the impacts, particularly on the potential, or likely at this point, federal Medicaid cuts? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning. I will pick up right where you left off. There are about 2 million New Jersey residents who receive health care through New Jersey Family Care, our state Medicaid program. That's more than 1 in 3 New Jersey children. It covers 1/3 of all births and hundreds of thousands of lower income seniors, individuals with disabilities, and people with mental illness and other behavioral health needs. New Jersey Medicaid is a $24 billion program. About $10 billion of that is paid for by the state of New Jersey, and about $14 billion is paid by the federal government. And we're talking about a $3.5 billion reduction in federal funding. For the people of New Jersey and for our economy, the impact of Congress's Medicaid cuts are real, and they are devastating. The messaging from certain members of Congress about the House Reconciliation Bill has been confusing and full of false rhetoric. Some in Congress are telling the American people that these Medicaid cuts are just common sense and making changes to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse, as the governor noted. But that is not the truth. Funding critical healthcare providers is not fraud. Caring for people with disabilities or mental illness is not waste. And ensuring that pregnant women and their babies and children have health care is not an abuse of funding. I am joined in the audience today by our Medicaid Director, Gregory Woods, and as the people and the state agency who oversee New Jersey...
Take a bow. Gregory, take a bow.
Thank you.
Good to have you, buddy.
As the people and the agency who oversee New Jersey Medicaid, we want to be very clear and honest about what is in the bill that passed in the House and what it will do in New Jersey. So there are 4 things I'm going to focus on. Number 1, Congress is cutting Medicaid coverage for hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans who will be left uninsured. Specifically, Congress's own budget office estimated that 350,000 New Jerseyans will lose health care coverage under the bill. That is 20% of those who are covered, including about half of all of the adults who gained coverage under the Affordable Care Act. Number 2, the House bill would force New Jersey to make an inhumane and appalling choice between taking fully state-funded health care away from 46,890 children or kicking them out of family care coverage. Or, if we don't do that, they will make us pay a $700 million annual recurring federal penalty, which takes funding directly out of our healthcare system. 3, it cuts our federal Medicaid funding, as the governor noted, by $3.5 billion, including cutting about $300 million in federal funds directly from New Jersey hospitals, at the same time that we know that hospital funding will soar, hospital uncompensated care costs will soar because of all of the newly uninsured people that this bill creates. So when states lose billions of dollars for Medicaid, our only choices are to cover fewer people, to eliminate benefits and services, or to pay healthcare providers less. Those are our levers. And finally, the bill makes the process of getting and keeping Medicaid more difficult and painful for everyone. That is on purpose. It forces states to create new bureaucratic hurdles that make it harder for everyone to prove they're eligible for Medicaid. It makes people provide more paperwork and reprove their eligibility more often, and it will lengthen the time frame it takes for people to be approved for Medicaid. These policies are cruel, and they force us away from our values. This is what Republicans in Congress voted for. But it is not too late to stop these changes. This bill still goes before the Senate for their votes, so your advocacy still matters. And I want to add my voice of gratitude to the individuals and families who are with us today, who will share why protecting Medicaid matters to them. So thank you.
Sarah, thank you. And Sarah has proven, other states now call Sarah for understanding and advice in terms of how to deal with Medicaid. So deep thanks for everything you do. As Sarah said, the Senate still has to vote on this. I mentioned this earlier, and that could make it a little bit worse or a little bit better. I hope, obviously, better. The challenge when you're advocating in New Jersey is there's no question where Senators Booker and Kim will vote here. They're going to be on the right side of history, as were the 9 members who voted against this bill in the House. So the advocacy at this point, is it possible that there's a reconciliation process in that on the margin the House can be influenced in that process? I'm not optimistic. The advocacy has to go outside the 4 walls of New Jersey, and we have to hope that as a national matter, there's courage somewhere. Again, not making this a partisan comment, this is just a fact. The courage has to come from members of the Republican Party in the Senate. Sarah, thank you. I know our clock is limited. I'm going to start with our guest today, Lauren Williams. Bless you, mother of 3, including the very precious Kara Williams, who's not with us today. Kara, I believe, resides in a group home. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that precious young lady and a little bit about the care that she receives through the children's system of care and how your family counts on Medicaid. You might want to move that a little bit closer to you.
Yes, sir. Thank
And
you.
again, thank you so much. This is a little confusing for me. I'm not that gifted in trying to deal with it. We have both a Lauren Williams and a Laura Williams, so please bear with me. But so far, so good. Great to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Monmouth University's own, I might add.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my daughter. So this is a picture of my daughter, Kara, and as the nice governor has just said, I am a single mother of 3. 2 of my children have mental health illnesses, but my daughter has the most severe of the 2. So my daughter is currently receiving care at one of the children's system of care facilities in North Jersey at this time. She was diagnosed at age 12 with DMDD, which is disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. She also has severe anxiety, depression, and PTSD from the trauma and abuse that I had received from my ex-husband for many years. My daughter, though, over time, her symptoms started to worsen, and she had been in and out of the hospital, short-term and long-term, because of her illness. And in December of 2024, most recently, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She's bipolar 2, borderline personality disorder, and severe anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So the care that my daughter has received over the past 3 years, along with her case managers who have been wonderful advocates and help to me, she's also been assisted in our home. She has an IIC, which is a therapist that comes to assist her often. She's also been to IOPs and acute care facilities that helped her with therapy there as well. And she also had a BA, which is a behavioral analyst, that allowed her to act more appropriately in society and in school. So all of those things have been afforded to us through Medicaid to assist her. And now she's in a facility up in North Jersey where she's receiving residential care there on a daily basis.
How old is Kara?
15.
15, bless her. Can you
Yes.
tilt the picture
Oh,
just a
sure.
little bit? Oh, I love that gal.
Thanks.
Okay, and she's in North Jersey right now.
She is, so it's approximately an hour away, but I get her on the weekends because she's been much more stable. And the facility that she's in, I cannot speak more highly for them.
Oh, bless
They're quite professional, and they very much know how to handle the disabilities that herself and the other children there have.
So thank you for going through that, Lauren.
Sure.
Has anyone, I know this bill just passed, and we've already said it's not yet settled in terms of the Senate and how they're going to impact it. Has anybody walked you through what the new reality is going to be for you?
Unfortunately, no, but I have heard that many of even the programs I've been afforded in order to allow me to better understand my daughter's needs will also be taken away from me on top of the things that she's been afforded through Medicaid. So it seems, though, that if all of what she's been allotted through Medicaid will be taken, that we've always been intended to reunify with her. So she's always coming home, whether she's broken or fixed.
Yep.
She's my child and I want her back home. But I would prefer she comes home fixed
Sure.
or stable at least.
Yeah.
There are many other children that she's even gotten the opportunity to know through the residential facility that have no one there for them, and they will be, unfortunately, pushed out onto the streets. So these are unstable children besides.
Yeah.
If we're not getting them to the point where they are stable, you are now putting mental health unstable teenagers on the street.
God bless her. Now, I love the picture, but do you mind shifting it back so
Certainly.
the cameras can see her as well?
Certainly.
Lauren, maybe one after some combination of maybe, I want to ask Christine to speak here in a second. Christine and Sarah can get with you and maybe figure sort of with a heavy heart, but at least give you a better roadmap as to where we think this is going to land for you. Bless you and bless Kara. Christine, again, Commissioner of the Department of Children and Families, can you maybe, Christine, reiterate what these cuts might mean in particular for the behavioral health care system, but beyond as well? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing your story or sharing Kara's story, because your daughter's story is like so many other children in the state. And Lauren's daughter, Kara, is one of 40,000 children today that are receiving care through our children's system of care. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the children's system of care, it's annually we serve about 63,000 children across the state of New Jersey, children and youth with moderate to severe behavioral health problems and intellectual and developmental disabilities, including autism, each month. These services, which are afforded to families and young people both in community and in out-of-home congregate care settings like Kara's currently in, these services depend on close to $500 million in Medicaid funding, $465 million in Medicaid funding annually, which means that any reduction to those dollars would have a direct impact on the 63,000 children or the 40,000 children today who are receiving services. And just to put that into perspective a little bit, 69% of the children receiving services through the children's system of care are insured by Medicaid. So that's about 27,000 children who would not have, without Medicaid, would not be able to access those services. And so if those programs close, as you said, what will happen? I think the challenge is for families like Kara that actually have parents that are stable and willing to care for them, they're able to return home, and then we would piece together, what we would be able to assist with. But for the children who don't have parents to return to, many of those children could then end up in a foster care situation or setting. And I think what's challenging about that is, this state, we have done so much to really reduce the number of children in foster care and only have children in foster care when it is not safe for them to reside at home, not because they're not able to receive services or get the supports in an out-of-home placement. And so in many ways, the system could be turned upside down. I think talking about the other side of our department, which is child protection and the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, it would be an added stress on foster care. Many of the children, Medicaid covers health insurance for all of our children in care, but not just for the children, but for their families. Many of the families that are involved in the child protection system today have, or children are in foster care as a result of parental mental health issues, parental substance use disorder, or domestic violence. And so the cuts that Sarah was talking about earlier also would directly impact the health care and the services that those parents are able to get to be able to take care of themselves. Then they're able to take care of their children and be reunified with their children. And so, while we're focused on the healthcare side and the children's system of care today, it would have a broader implication on all of our children's services across the state.
There's absolutely no good news there. And the foster care point I wanted to underscore, we've spent almost 8 years, and Christine has been at the vanguard of this, directing that to an entirely different and better, more stable place, and this unfortunately could begin to blow that up. Thank you for that and for everything. Noah, welcome to you. You and I share, among other things, a son named Samuel. Our youngest guy. I was just with him this morning, and I said I was going to meet another Samuel's dad, and this is, I assume, the aforementioned Samuel Burton.
This is him.
God bless him. He has he's an adult with intellectual and developmental disabilities, so I believe attends a day program here in Lakewood.
Yes,
is that right?
adult program.
Can you give us a little bit more about this precious guy and his unique medical needs and the importance of that program for you and for him? Maybe get the mic a little bit closer to you if you could. Nice
Sure.
to meet you, sir.
Nice meeting you as well. Sam is, he has a very rare genetic condition called Aicardi-Gutierrez syndrome, which presents in Samuel as he's quadriplegic, he's wheelchair-bound, he's more recently became blind, he's tube-fed and needs constant care to the extent that every hour or so, in other words, 24 hours care. As far as daytime care, He attends the Shy Adult program as well as he attends the Centers for Special Children for an aftercare program. But the governor mentioned the idea of dollars, and I think and illustrating this through personal stories. I think it's important to emphasize that families such as ours and many families I deal with on a professional basis as an attorney live sort of on the edge of a cliff, because we live in a world where you take one piece out of that puzzle, whether it is an extra hour of nursing care, whether it is the ability to get to therapy, or whether it means any sort of medicine that you've been not approved for because due to budget cuts. Take one piece out of that creates a cascade that sends that entire family into the abyss. And I can give an example just for myself. Were I to have removed one piece out of the puzzle, that means I can't work. That means my wife can't work. That means that we literally would have to shut down were even to remove one piece of that puzzle. Sam is now 27, 28 now.
28.
Yes.
He's growing up before our eyes.
Yes. Yes.
And where is he at night?
He's at home at night.
He's at home.
We do receive nursing care through Medicaid for most nights. I can tell you many nights I am the nurse.
Yep.
And we have many hours, weekends and daily, probably 7 or 8 hours daily, and the entire weekends we care for him by ourselves.
Yep.
And I can tell you we have not been on a vacation in 15 years.
God bless you.
Because you can't do that. It's just not something that we can do. But like I said, if you remove one piece out of that puzzle, it's done.
Do you have other kids?
We do. We have 4 other children and 4 grandchildren.
Oh, bless you.
Yes. And we have a younger. We do have my youngest child that suffers from the same syndrome as well. But thank God he's much higher functioning.
Okay.
And we're also looking at a world where he's now turning 20 years old, and we're looking at a world where we're going to have to find some way for him to have a job with support through Medicaid services and be able to turn into a functioning adult with that support.
What is his name?
His name's Aaron.
Aaron, okay. We'll keep him in our prayers as well. By the way, I know the personal relationship. I know the Shy folks for past Mark Siegel and that crowd for 20-odd years. So God bless the other Sam in my life.
Thank you.
Stay strong. Avi, let me come to you. Thank you, Noah, for that. Nice to have you, first of all. I wish the topic were more upbeat. But Avi, as I mentioned, is an outstanding legislator and a great legislative partner, representing Lakewood, which is the fastest growing community in the state. It's also, I think, among the youngest in the state. I think the median age is as young here as it is anywhere. When you listen to all this, Avi, how do you react? How do you see the cuts and the specific concerns about those cuts in this community? And again, great to have you, and deep thanks for everything you do.
Well, first of all, Governor, I want to welcome you and your team to Lakewood, New Jersey. It's great to have you back, especially in the iconic Strand Theater, as you mentioned earlier. But I think that these kinds of meetings are so imperative and important, and I thank you again for your leadership, in that we hear a lot of the numbers. Excuse me. We hear a lot of the numbers and statistics, and there's data. There's 2 billion, there's 40,000, there's 50,000. And that just seems like just a big number. But what does it actually mean? And convening a meeting like this with real people, hearing real stories about Lauren's daughter and Noah's son, and we're going to hear more stories. This is real. These are real people. These are our neighbors, potentially our mothers, our fathers, our siblings, our children that potentially could be affected by this. And like you've mentioned earlier, there is no state government, and not the New Jersey state budget, that could cover these losses. So what happens? What happens if this is not fixed? What are we going to tell Noah or Lauren or Vanessa or Laura and everybody else, what happens now? So we need to have these conversations. They're not fun conversations. Like you said, you're going to have to come back for a more upbeat meeting. We'll have to maybe invite you to the Blue Claws, a Blue Claws game. But we'll have to have some other fun conversations, but we have to have the hard conversations. And we're having them, and I just want to thank you again and thank the commissioners for their leadership. And from day one, you've been on this at the forefront. And we don't have the resolution yet, but I know that under your leadership and your team's leadership, we're going to get somewhere. And we're going to take care of all the people that are going to be affected. Somehow we need to. So thank you.
That means a lot, and you've been just incredible. And the community leadership here, Ray and Mayor and their colleagues, and Avi, obviously, in the forefront, have been extraordinary. So thank you. It means a lot that you're here. I want to go down to the end. That my friend over here, my new friend Andrew McGeady, who is here, an advocate for the disability community. Not Lauren, but Laura Williams, helping him out there. Thank you for that. You've been diagnosed with cerebral palsy, Andrew. You're here with Mom.
Yes.
Honored to have you here with us as well, ma'am. Thank you for advocating, Andrew, on behalf of members of the community every single day. And just give us your perspective about what these cuts, what concerns you, and how do you see yourself advocating in this new, tougher, brutal environment? God bless you.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Governor Murphy and distinguished panel, for hosting this very important event. How would you feel if someone told you tomorrow that you could no longer get out of bed, enjoy a hot shower or even cooked meal, or even use the bathroom? Those are just some of the services that I receive through Medicaid. I would not be here today talking to you if it wasn't for Medicaid. I am a former board of director member of DRNJ, have provided some consulting for ECHO through Trinitas, and am a proud member of NJCDD Council. In 2023, I received my bachelor's degree from Kean University. I am a docent with the Ocean Grove Historical Society and have proudly ushered in the great auditorium for 15 seasons. As a contributing member of society, none of this would be possible without my Medicaid services, which allow me to access the community while also remaining healthy and safe. Even a small percentage of a loss of these services would be absolutely devastating. I have lived with my single mother for almost 40 years. I experienced severe cerebral palsy along with respiratory issues. When I came home from the hospital, Congressman Smith secured 24/7 nursing care for me through Medicaid. It was because of that investment of care and living in my home that I was able to thrive. If my Medicaid services or health benefits were to be cut, it would jeopardize my ability to remain in the only home I've known. On a daily basis, I require 24/7 one-on-one personal and physical care. I see multiple specialists, require aerosol meds, skin breakdown meds, stretching and range of motion in a heated therapy pool, and access to DMEs such as my manual chair, motorized chair, stander, commode, and a rolling shower chair. In order to access the community and attend medical visits, I have a lift-equipped van. Without Medicaid providing the lift in the van, I would be without a means to leave my home. While I have Medicare and Medicaid, any cut to Medicaid health benefits would be untenable, especially when requiring a medication or wheelchair repair. As a dual, which is someone enrolled in both Medicare and Medicaid, my Part B and Part D premiums are funded by Medicaid. Without Medicaid funding the premiums, this is another cost that I would be unable to absorb as I live on a small Social Security benefit. My story is reflective of thousands of people across our state. There is no way to live my life without the services and health benefits I require. While we live in the greatest country in the world, we should not have to beg or worry about proper care, medicine, or health coverage. I feel I am more worthy than that. Thank you for being the difference that will help us to access our vitally needed services, and thank you for your time today.
Incredibly impressive. God bless you, buddy. And Andrew, by virtue, by the way, I got to hear what the calendar looks like at Ocean Grove. You and I could talk about that separately for the season.
Thank you.
But in addition to your own personal story and challenges, which you have articulated extremely well, the fact that you're also an advocate for the community, so you're not just in this for yourself, which makes your endeavors particularly noble. So God bless you. And by the way, as you referenced Congressman Smith, to his credit, again, this is a guy we've done a fair amount with over the years, notwithstanding the fact that we see a lot of stuff differently, but it's also further evidence that everybody knows what we're talking about here. This is not unknown. People understand exactly what is going on and still chose to make this vote. Andrew, thank you, and it's great to have Mom with us as well. Thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Thank you, Governor.
God bless you, buddy. Let's stay in the same neighborhood. Maybe move the microphone over to your neighbor, Laura Williams, who is the mom of Chris. I've got glare here. God
Chris.
bless that guy. How old is he?
Chris is 17.
Okay. Maybe send him back to the camera so he gets a good shot in case he's watching. Chris is 17, as you said. He's got a dual diagnosis,
Yes.
which I'd love you to go into exactly what that means. But he utilizes, as I understand it, Medicaid to avoid hospitalization.
Yes.
And would love to get a sense, residential community versus hospitalization. I also heard he participated at Special Olympics. Would love to
Gold
hear-
medalist.
Come on, man. Let's hear about that, which is incredible. So tell us a little about that, and also give us a sense, Laura, if you could, how all of this, again, this is tough, I know, for you as well, how all of this would impact Christopher. Maybe get the mic a little bit closer to you if you could, and thank you
right.
for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Chris is a 17-year-old guy who we adopted out of the foster care system at 15 months. So he's the middle of 3 kids, and came to us with a failure to thrive diagnosis. He didn't know language, wasn't walking. So he's benefited from early intervention services. Probably within 3 weeks, we had him in early intervention, got him walking, talking. He's able to do a lot. But he has a tough genetic background. His biological family really suffers from pretty significant mental health issues. And he's also on the autism spectrum. So he has the dual diagnosis challenges of trying to do it. He, like Lauren's beautiful daughter, has unfortunately been in and out of hospitalizations from as young as 7 with pretty significant behavioral health challenges. Resided at home in Point Pleasant for most of his life, but COVID really was a challenge for our kids. When he lost the structure of school, it resulted in a much longer stay. But since then, we were able to step him down. And what we talked to Chris about, because like Lauren, our goal is reunification. We want Chris home. But what we've talked about is he was in a really restricted hospital situation for a long time. That's not where a young child needs to be. He moved to a clinically strong program in South Jersey, and has now stepped down to an IDD group home in Mount Laurel. And as he's moved through the continuum of services from a highly structured, highly costly hospital service to a much more independent situation, my hopes as an advocate in the field is that when he hit adult, we'd be talking about employment for Chris. Like, he can work, he can be a Medicaid recipient who, with supports, my goal was employment for him. My goal continues. But those are the services that are at risk. I hope that he'll continue to get the custodial care that he needs, the supervision he needs, but how can we help him be the best possible citizen of New Jersey and really participate? You know, it's changed his life, having the structure and supports he's needed to becoming what we think he can be, and that's what every family member wants. We want him to achieve what he can possibly have, the best possible life he can have. And under your leadership and the administration's leadership, New Jersey is a better place for people with disabilities. The accomplishments that we've seen just in the funding that New Jersey's received to benefit people with disabilities has been unbelievable to see that how far we've climbed the mountain, to be worried about the impact my kid will have. It's really frightening.
You make a point, we're not patting ourselves on the back, but it's a fact. If you've got any sort of disability, you are almost across the board. If you're in New Jersey, you're fortunate relative to, I think, almost any other state in America. And I think I can say that pretty much with empirical evidence, thanks to a lot of the folks who lead that every day. Give us, I know the clock is short, give us 10 seconds on Special Olympics, what event, where was it, et cetera?
He's a sprinter. He'll compete next week at the States, the state games in Trenton, and he'll do the 25-meter and the 50-meter run, as well as the javelin now. He's moved up to actually throwing. So, you know, when you have an athletic kid who participated in T-ball and, you know, I coached him in T-ball and all those things, the fact that he can continue to do that is, and those are the services we need to maintain. How to keep him involved. What that does for a kid like Chris in terms of self-esteem is unbelievable.
God bless that lad. Good luck in Trenton.
Thank you.
People wish me good luck in Trenton all the time, by the way. I hope Chris has better luck than I have some days, but God bless you.
Thank you.
And God bless him. Let's come over to another great guy here, Louis Bonilla. Louis in a wheelchair. Louis, as I understand it, it was because of a diabetes-related amputation.
That's correct.
You live, I believe, in a nursing home.
Yes, Complete Care and Brick.
God bless you. Bricks in the house. Can you share a little bit about your challenges and how Medicaid has helped you recover and what's at risk therefore? And it's great to have you, sir.
I was diagnosed with diabetes type 2, lost my left leg below the knee, got a prosthetic through Medicaid. I also developed gangrene in my right foot, lost part of that. I was a heavy smoker. I also developed a heart condition. I had 2 stents put in. I had clogged arteries. I've been in the nursing home now for 4 years. I'm lucky it's a 5-star certificated nursing home, Complete Care. They take good care of me. I rely on Medicaid for my medications and for my care, and it saved my life. You know, I could have had a heart attack or a stroke. I was already 65 when this happened. It's been my lifeline for the last 4 years. And your administration has always supported Medicaid, so we thank you for that.
And the problem, what we're discussing is we do a good chunk of Medicaid and we'll continue to do that, but the feds are the 800-pound gorilla, as they say.
Yeah.
Are you feeling good right now?
Yeah.
You look good.
Thanks.
Are you that wasn't intended for humor back there. He does look good.
Thank you.
Right.
I work out 30 minutes a day.
I love that.
I have 5-pound weights.
I have to ask you, given the shirt you're wearing, are you a Knicks fan?
Yes.
So
my brother works for the NBA.
Okay, that's good. That's cool. They have a big presence, as you know, in New Jersey. So their headquarters are in New York, but they do a lot of their stuff in New Jersey.
Right.
And
They're based in Secaucus.
Correct. Secaucus. And the Knicks had a big night.
Yeah.
Okay. I wish you well tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Great to have you, Louis. Seriously.
Thank you.
An honor.
Thank you for your time.
It's the least we could do. I want to do one more, and then I'm going to ask Jeff to help close out. Vanessa Nieto is with us. Vanessa, nice to have you. Vanessa is a pharmacy technician. You're currently pregnant, I'm told, with your 4th child. Give us a little bit of I know that not all of your pregnancies have been easy or open and shut, and you've had some challenges there as well. Give us a little bit of a sense as to how Medicaid has supported your health care, both in pregnancy and in postpartum. Yes. I gave Vanessa the opportunity, if she would like, to speak a little bit in Spanish. Probably everyone in the room will know what she has said other than yours truly, but Vanessa, over to you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you. My name is Vanessa. Yes, I have 3 small children, and I'm currently pregnant. My 3rd pregnancy was my hardest one. I was in danger of miscarriage. So basically it was way more different than my first 2 pregnancies. They were easy, no problems. They went easy with Medicaid also. But with my 3rd child, it was in and out of the hospital, multiple ultrasounds, blood works, getting the blood work to check every 2 to 3 days to see if the levels went up or they went down. So Medicaid has really helped me and my kids. I'm currently, like I said, pregnant. So it's a great help being covered with Medicaid, especially when you have children and you have some health conditions also.
How many months in are you right now?
Right now, I'm 2 months and a half.
Okay, God
Yeah.
bless you. So you're due in the fall? You're due in
December 27th.
December?
Yeah.
Holiday?
Yes.
Yeah. And how old are your children?
So the first one is 15.
Wow.
Yes. Second one is 10, and I have a 4-month-old, and then now pregnant.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And was Medicaid part of your support for the first 2 or
Yes.
So
Yeah.
even though the 3rd one was the most challenging,
Yes.
the first 2 you also had help as well.
Yes, I was undercover
Okay.
with Medicaid.
All seriousness, do you want to say anything in Spanish?
Yeah. Tener Medicaid ha salvado mucho de mi tiempo con mis hijos. He estado teniendo la ayuda de Medicaid como madre hispana, de poder estar más tiempo con ellos sin tener que trabajar tanto. Y yo agradezco a Medicaid que nos ayuda a mí y a mi familia. Más que nada Medicaid es como una bendición de Dios y espero que podamos arreglar esto para seguir teniendo el beneficio para nuestros hijos y nuestra familia en el futuro. Así es. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck on number 4. We have 4, and the most important thing in our lives. Last but not least, 2 to my left, Jeff Brown, who's the acting commissioner of the Department of Health. And Jeff, and I know the clock is short, so if you could keep it fairly crisp. Potential impact of Medicaid reduction in particular on less in the case of these particular individuals and families, but New Jersey's overall healthcare system and the consequences more broadly for public health in the state. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm glad the Governor talked about courage because you are all showing immense courage sitting up here and talking about how these proposals could impact you. So at the Department of Health, our mission is to protect public health, promote healthy communities, and ensure access to a high-quality healthcare system. These cuts to Medicaid would impact every piece of that mission. When it comes to public health, research has shown that Medicaid expansion is linked to improved health outcomes, lower mortality rates from chronic diseases, lower all-cause mortality rates, and lower maternal mortality rates. So when you take away Medicaid coverage, those things get worse. From a health systems perspective, these cuts are going to be felt by everybody because Medicaid is a part of our healthcare system. And if you think of the healthcare system like a house, if you chip away at the foundation of which Medicaid is a part of, you hurt the entire structure. And, let's be clear, these cuts are not just chipping away at the foundation, they're taking a hammer to the cinder blocks. So from a health systems perspective, this is going to impact everybody. When your local hospital shuts down service lines because they can't afford to cover them anymore because of loss of Medicaid funds, that impacts everybody seeking emergency care. When FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, face even tighter margins, that threatens access to primary care and preventative care across our entire state. When nursing homes shut down, and across the state, 6 out of every 10 nursing home residents are covered by Medicaid. So when nursing homes can't stay afloat and they shut down, that threatens and displaces residents and impacts families of all income levels. When you have mental health and addiction services disappear, that means more people in crisis in our schools, businesses, and communities. When people with disabilities have less access to care and services, that means more financial and emotional burdens on families and caregivers. And when preventable diseases go untreated, which we know happens when people lose coverage to health care, they spread to us all. And Governor, I'm also glad you talked about, this not being a partisan issue, because particularly in New Jersey, it's not a partisan issue. Coming back to Courage, the decision to expand Medicaid was actually made by a Republican governor in New Jersey. It was made by Governor Christie. He had the courage to buck the trends in his party at the time and make the right choice for New Jersey, which was to expand access to Medicaid. What we're looking at here is, really a loss of coverage. The CBO, as has been noted, estimates 14 million people across the country would lose coverage if these cuts go into effect. And that means more uncompensated care at hospitals, fewer people accessing care, and worse health outcomes. So as public health officials, we follow evidence, and the evidence is clear. States that make healthcare more accessible are healthier. These cuts will make the United States and New Jersey less healthy. And finishing with Courage, during the first Trump administration, I will never forget watching this when it happened, but the late, great Senator John McCain had the courage to stand up on the floor of the Senate and give a resounding thumbs down when they were trying to cut access to health care the first time. So we can only hope that there are others who have courage to stand up and also give a thumbs down to these detrimental cuts. Thank you, Governor.
Jeff, thank you. And you make the point very clearly that this is not just about a narrow slice of our state, which it is, by the way. You've heard real life evidence of that. It's ultimately about all of us and the health of our state and the public health generally in New Jersey. And you're absolutely right about Governor Christie. He made a big move on the chessboard, which was Medicaid expansion. And we, in our administration, determined we weren't getting our money's worth out of Washington and built our own exchange. Those two separate but related and important moves helped propel us to a place where I mentioned earlier where I don't know, for all the bad news, I don't know that I'd rather be anywhere else other than the great state of New Jersey. So on behalf of the elected officials, Avi, I cannot thank you enough. Sarah, our experts and cabinet members, Sarah, Christine, and Jeff, on behalf of all of us, huge thanks. So Louie, go Knicks. God bless you. Lauren, here's to Kara, and good times ahead for her. Noah, for the other Sam in my life, bless you. Best of luck with your pregnancy. Laura, for our new greatest athlete. Chris, in our state, and Andrew, to you and your advocacy, not just for your own person, but for members of the community. To each and every one of you, a sobering, Avi said, let's hope for better, happier discussions in Lakewood and beyond, but today is a sobering discussion that must be had. Folks have to understand the consequences of these votes. They have to understand how it's going to impact these people's lives. And please, God, we can find our way through this. We'll do everything we can in the state. But again, there's only so much you can do given the power and scope and scale of the federal government. God bless you all. Be well. Have a good weekend. And in Lakewood, I have to say Shabbat Shalom.